Hey everybody, welcome to the show. Today is what we call our 2-week recap show. It's where we have an opportunity to go back and look at a lot of the topics we talked about in the last 2 weeks. So in the last 2 weeks, we've talked about everything from Grok 3 being released, and there's more to talk about there now that people have actually had some time to play with it. We've had some updates from ChatGPT, but also did we kind of even know what the updates were? We're going to talk about that a little bit. We had Sam Altman had some predictions about, kind of where he felt like AGI was coming. He wrote a blog and we discussed that. We got everything from Anthropic's economic review. Yesterday, we talked all about memory and what do we really want out of that. So there's a lot. Oh, and then we also talked about ChatGPT Pro and was it really worth it once people really dug in? Does that $200 value really make sense? So we're going to be coming back to all those topics today, talking about the shows in the last 2 weeks that sort of stuck with us, the ones that we feel like there's been updates to, and generally just have a great conversation about it. So thank you and welcome to everybody in the comments already. Thanks for showing up live with us, Jen and Gareth and Justin, and a few others in there as well. Morning to everybody.
June first.
This is the Daily AI Show. Today it's February 21st, 2025, and I'm joined by Beth and Andy. I'm Brian. And I think, maybe, I don't know about you guys, the one I would want to jump in on, because I felt like I knew the least about it, is Grok. Have you guys heard, I don't think any of us, by the way, have Grok Pro. Is that correct? Correct. Yeah.
Huh.
So have you guys heard through the interwebs and through, Beth, you're a little bit more on X and Twitter than I am, I think. And, if Carl was here, he's in Reddits and stuff. And so I guess for me, I'm just like waiting to hear like, oh my God, it's as amazing as Elon Musk was making it out to be. It is, in fact, the best LLM we have. Or, oh, I tested it a little bit and I don't know. I don't really see the difference because every new model that comes out, I feel like can put up a graph and say they're the best. It sort of falls into that category of you torture the data enough, it'll confess to anything. And I feel like we see this. It's like, I don't feel like it would be that hard with a frontier model to show you a couple of line bars and say, we're now the best. So I don't know, what have you guys heard, or have you heard anything on Grok? I've only heard some little here or there, and I'm pretty tuned into this stuff like you guys have. Have you heard anybody say like, dude, Grok 3 is crushing it above and beyond what other models we have?
So
I don't think that the typical user would be able to apply any particular query or a series of queries that would elevate some special result from Grok 3 that wasn't sort of with small variations in style or content would be available on the other major frontier models. I think that we're talking about very marginal improvements here that establish who's at the top of the leaderboards. And in general, any one of the frontier models is going to be more than sufficient for what the typical user is applying to it.
Yeah.
so one piece of Grok news did happen yesterday, which is that it's now available for free to people who have X accounts. So you're limited in what you can do.
Grok 3? Just to be clear.
Grok 3.
Okay.
So you don't have to take our word for it. We can go find out what you think about Grok 3 yourself. And let me see if I can come up with actually the limits. It looks like 10 prompts every 2 hours, 10 image generations every 2 hours, 3 image analyses per day, 5 deep search queries, and 10 think searches every 2 hours. Now, I assume 10 prompts every 2 hours is the total cap. And then you could do any variety of these within their limitation, but I don't think you get 10 prompts plus 10 image generations plus 5 deep search queries plus like that's not how I read that. But go knock yourself out. Let us know if we're wrong. But that seemed fairly quiet in the drop, right? And I have to assume that on one level means that they've put enough servers together and it's okay. They're not like being slammed and unable to handle the traffic. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think, I mean, I don't I guess where I come from on this is I wonder if enough people had access to it for us to get a true sense of the everyday user. I think you're smart to point that out, Andy, because um, there's only so many people who can put enough really good prompts. I know I struggle with that, despite writing prompts all the time. I struggle with getting the right prompt that I feel like is truly going to give me a side by side comparison of different models. I have a few, but I also don't have access to Grok, nor would I pay more for it. Obviously, now you're saying, Beth, it's like maybe I could use it a little bit. Jude, by the way, says it can go jump off a high bridge. So we have Jude's response on Grok. I haven't played with it. I do see an article from Descript.co. They said overall Grok 3 provided a better, more engaging story, but it's not exactly a KO win against Claude. That's what they're comparing it to in their blog. The difference may just boil down to focus. Grok 3 poured its energy into a rock solid foundation, characters and stakes that made you care, while Claude leaned hard into dressing up the story with vivid descriptions. And so it says, summarizing one critical gap of Grok 3 arsenal is that it cannot read documents. This is a surprising given that most competitors provide this as part of their baseline offerings. To get around this limitation, we pasted an entire IMF report totaling 47 pages into the interface, which previously caused Grok 2 to crash. Even with this limitation, Grok 3 did not crash and was able to summarize the text, though it did so encompassing all aspects and with a fair amount of words beyond what was necessary. So that's one small review of the script.co and how they did it side by side. And I was trying to find a few more for the show today. I know we have other topics to talk about as well, but this one was interesting to me because you come out and you say 100,000, if correct me if I'm wrong here, it was 100,000 H100 servers, or was it H100s, right? The previous top of the line NVIDIA. And then they said that took us 120 days. I wasn't on that show, but that was the thing that actually I can't out of the whole announcement. I was the most blown away by the last 10 minutes, which was Elon Musk talking about what it took to stand up that place in Memphis. And I don't know if you guys wanted to detail on that on the show, but that blew me away. In fact, I was like, I bet you Jimmy is going to be all over this. Welcome, by the way, Jimmy. I know you're just jumping into the call, but that was like, I'm kind of like, I nerd out and geek out on the builds. And so I think I was more impressed and excited. It was like, to me, it was like a landing on the moon mission. Like, we will land on the moon by the end of the decade type of speech. And I'm like, they did this in 120 days. And then they said they doubled to 200,000 servers in 93 days. In addition, because they had learned from, their experience or whatever. So I don't know. I guess with Grok, I just look at it and I go, shouldn't we be hearing more about it? Or is it just lack of people having access to it? And that's maybe why. But if you put that much compute, shouldn't we be hearing like tales of you guys have never seen anything like this before? And I'm not knocking it, by the way. I mean, maybe it is. I just feel
Well, I have a comment on that, that there the compute and parallelizing 200,000 processors to do the free training of Grok and Grok 3, that is a major achievement, right?
yes.
That huge cluster made it possible to take a huge sum of data and do all the calculations necessary to accomplish a frontier model that's at parity, I'll say, with the major frontier models in a very, very short period of time.
Mhm.
That was the achievement. But no, there was no breakthrough. Grok 3 isn't substantially or even perceptibly better than the other frontier models, but Colossus still exists. That training that accelerated the accomplishment of frontier model parity is now available to do further tuning and other
Right.
processing tasks. So there's something there, but I think
Right.
it's on the hardware side.
Because, they also implied that it would continue to improve, which is another
That's
thing
true.
that, uh, that they didn't really share their process for that, but that would again make sense within that they have this speedy training situation, set up because the ingredients seem to be, compute, data, and time. And so they expanded their compute, but compressed the time to kind of get at the main level that match the other frontier models. Now we can see, now I hope we're going to be able to see what improving regularly, ongoing means in that context. But I also think that the main thing that Grok has a built-in use case, right? If you are on X, Twitter, and you are reading a tweet that you do not understand, there is a Grok button that you can click, and it will explain it to you within the context. And that is so helpful. Like, if you're someone who hangs out on Twitter for AI research, because that's where people are talking about AI more than any other place, um, that that built-in feature is really helpful. My other option is to screenshot it, go to Perplexity, have Perplexity, do something. And actually, I have wanted, "Hey, Perplexity, this is a really great idea. Please implement it," that you can share something to Perplexity, and it will initiate a search and then give me the answer because I don't want that extra step. I actually really just wanna be like, "Hey, I would like to talk to Perplexity about this," but I don't have to on X because X has Grok right there.
Yeah,
And
and
that
we should point out Meta did this, right, months ago when they updated their sort of chatbot messenger experience. But when you're on Facebook and you ask Meta, you get an LLM response along with your search results. So this is not to take it away. I think it's actually really cool, but I'm just to point out it like this kind of idea of building in an LLM into a social media platform had been done before. Now, I agree with you, Beth. I used Grok, the app. This is before 3 came out. I don't know, a couple weeks ago, I guess. I downloaded it on my phone when the app became available. And I immediately did see, albeit narrow use cases, for why you would definitely want to be able to quickly search and get in your results of an LLM X posts, X comments, I mean, that is massively important. You can imagine if you worked in any bit of politics, but anything in tech where there's drops constantly on X, and sometimes that's the only place. We've seen this multiple times where massive companies do a 3-line drop of some massive thing, and the cool place to do it is still on X, Twitter, right? So being able to use Grok to do that sort of like quick research and get a summary of results that are pulling in. And by the way, I believe it was a toggle, so you could say don't or do. I found that to be really, really valuable. And I haven't necessarily gone back to it because I don't know that I'm in a business where I have a use case for that. But if I was in tech, if I was doing any sort of like beat writing, any sort of like up to the minute type news reporting, if we were a show that like had to be first on an AI drop or something, I'd be using Grok all the time because I would be using it to try to get ahead and create content faster to turn it around if we needed to be like if the Daily I Show was about beating everybody else to the punch and trying to get those first bump of numbers for some new release, I'd be leaning on Grok full tilt because I think it would be the single best tool for it.
I feel like should we now inform Brian that he is in fact in tech? Uh, you are in fact, if not for your full-time paying gig, but
But my Iraq is you and Carl. In my Slack channel, what by the way, incorporating Grok through an API, if that was possible in our Slack channel, would be amazing. So there's a use case right there. Just put it in my Slack channel for all of us to get the updates. That'd be super cool. I don't know if they have that or not. But no, I tend to. This is just a me thing. I tend to stay off of X and I tend to stay out of Reddit. However, I have gone deep into an Ask Me Anything. The minute Carl says, "Hey, Sam," and some other people have done an Ask Me Anything, I'm the first one to read every comment in there because I'm like, this is gold. They're just dropping bombs in here, and it's amazing to read because you feel like you're right in the mind of a conversation. So I do it, but if I'm being honest, I rely on you guys to show me that it's there first, and then I go, look, you are my Grok, and you're a better one, frankly. Jimmy, before we leave the Grok discussion, because obviously this is our 2-week recap show, but you joined us a few minutes late. My question was like, have you seen anything in the news? Have you read anything? Have you heard about anybody who has used Grok 3 and whether it was an amazing experience or just a meh experience. Have you just seen anything? Because we were kind of saying like there hasn't been a ton that I've seen personally, but I don't want to assume that somehow that's the case.
Yeah, no, I think I align with that. I haven't really seen anything that's jumped out. There's always the hype cycle. There's always, some people saying, "Oh yeah, I've tried it out" or whatnot. I think your point earlier about accessibility, that's going to be a huge factor to that. Until people can start using it, you know, for free or just basic access or something like that, you're not really going to have the adoption use of it. Which, I think we touched upon in an earlier show, in the news show or the Grok show, where it could be part of the overall strategy, right? This is a early access. The Grok is showing the right kind of numbers, so let's get our limited beta release for people to try it out and things like that. But I think, touching upon the point of the data centers and how quickly they went from 2 to 3 and, just going from version to version is is my important takeaway, is that they're able to uh, build upon the shoulders of giants and those kinds of things, where everybody in the AI sphere is just going to be stepping up over each other in the amount of time it takes to come out with some improvements, new features, things like that. OpenAI, you know, in the amount of time that we've talked uh, about generative AI and them coming out with different models. We're talking years and years, and now it's getting faster and faster and faster. DeepSeek's a great example of it getting faster, regardless of how much compute they had access to. Just the fact that they were able to take what existed and were able to turn around a decent product, and of course make it open source, which everyone's already taking advantage of Perplexity and, various groups on Hugging Face and things like that. So I think this ramping of scale and this ramping of improvement is the big takeaway. And if they keep going on this cycle, we're going to have like the new Moore's law, where we're just going to see, oh yeah, we're going to have an improved AI every 3 months, that kind of thing. And I think that's the thing to be aware of and pay attention to.
I like in the comments that we have people who are like that are in Reddit, or somebody, Jude said Reddit's his jam. Hope, by the way, welcome, Hope. I like Reddit. Gwen joined us just recently in the comments, and it's funny, because I think Reddit and X are like they take a certain person, but I'm smiling because you guys know this, but I'll just share this with our audience. Like I won't read any, not these comments. These comments are fine, but Jimmy knows this. Like, I won't read any of the comments for any of our posts on YouTube. Why? Because I am a sensitive soul and I wear my heart on my sleeve, and there's no way I know I can deal with that. So I can't take the negativity. So like I let that filter through. Probably a good also reason why I shouldn't be on Reddit. So it's like it's funny how you have to censor yourself. The older you get, you go, maybe that social media platform isn't right for me. Maybe I should stay away from that for my own well-being. So the funny part is I always wanted this, I was my initial idea, and of course all our wonderful co-hosts brought this to life. But when I first had this idea, I was even thinking about it 2.5 years ago for the Daily AI show. And I was like, yeah, we'll have to get somebody who monitors the comments and stuff. Cause I'm not qualified for that. It says, oh, Brian, I'm right there. I think with you is what she was saying. So yeah, thank you, Gwen. I appreciate it because I'm a heart on my sleeve kind of person. It's for all the good and all the bad that goes with that. Okay, I do have an update on if you guys don't mind me pivoting a little bit. I know we have other topics to get to, but I do have an update on ChatGPT Pro because I did have an experience via my coworker yesterday. So my coworker has ChatGPT Pro. In fact, my company Scaled paid for her to have it. Now she works more in the marketing side of the house, but we have worked together. Well, she's been there longer than in the company than me. So nearly 4 years, me and this coworker work together. She's amazing. And so she's like, hey, I have ChatGPT Pro, but I need help with this custom GPT. well, we know custom GPTs have 4o, but they don't have Pro, right? Like doesn't mix and match in there. So it was this interesting conversation of me helping her with her prompting, which I have to give her credit. She did amazing. It's so much fun to see people just that you've known for a while doing and making and creating an AI and stuff. And she did a really good job. And I was giving her some updates and things like that. But we had this, it had to do with blog creation. We had this interesting conversation because we were getting better results from Pro, from the deep research and stuff, right? Using the benefits of that better model. But it was where do you put it in the stack? Because you can't create a custom GPT that just solves the problem because custom GPTs can't and don't have Pro, right? They're not going to go in there and have the O3 models and things like that, O1 Pro. So it was like, where do you put it in the position? And so we got into this conversation, and I don't necessarily there's a right or wrong, but like, let's just take the use case of building a blog. There is a lot. She's a master at this. There's a lot that goes into above and beyond. I have a topic that I want to write on, right? There's SEO reasoning in there and all the things, all the things. I needed to go back and link back to other things on our website. It's pretty detailed. So we were testing back and forth how we could create this chain and how it played. And one of the things we tested was actually leaving the custom GPT and doing it in a project. Why would you do it in a project? Because a project has access to all the models. What can you also do in a project in ChatGPT? You can add documents. So if you have the knowledge documents and you have some superseded instructions that just apply to that project, and then you start a chat, what you can do, and we didn't have time to fully test this on our call together yesterday, is you can switch back and forth between the models in the chat, which means hypothetically that it's actually a better solution for this part of writing the blogs than using a custom GPT. Because if I set my knowledge documents right and it's able to reference them correctly, and that's something she was going to go test. In other words, I said, hey, go upload one new project, put one document in it, use Pro, and ask for something that it would have to look at the document to know, and don't give it the answer, right? Just to test the process. But that is a really good use case for it. And so in her case, she's like, I've never built a project. I keep meaning to look at it. And I said, this is something we really need to look at. She goes, it's funny. I was only thinking of custom GPTs as a solution. And I said, they're great, right? But they have their limitations because you can't switch through the models. And so she's got this $200 plan. And now she has projects. And I think for this particular use case, what would be best is she starts a new chat. She could start a new project, but start a new chat every time she has a new blog. And then she would run through, it would have the 10 documents to look at and stuff like that. So more to come on that. But I just wanted to bring that up because I think people are sort of sleeping on projects a little bit. I use them all the time. Gwen says, Brian, I think documents went away from projects. No, they're definitely in there, Gwen. You might, maybe something to do with Claude because they also use the term projects, but just inside of your ChatGPT, you absolutely can add documents to it. We just did it yesterday. But really cool use case. I was just saying before I read that comment that I use projects exclusively for the newsletter that I put out. By the way, you can go to thedailyishow.com and sign up and get our next newsletter. It'll be going out on Sunday morning. It's free. You should definitely do it. But I put a lot of time and effort into writing that newsletter every week, and there's a lot of human writing in there and stuff like that. But of course, I use AI to help me organize thoughts of the shows and stuff. I do that fully inside a DOS newsletter project folder because it's much, much more efficient than if I was trying to build it out somewhere else. As Beth and I found out very quickly, though, the big downfall of projects is you cannot put a custom GPT in a project. If they do that, you've really, really got something you can run with. So just wanted to give that up there. I don't know if you guys have had a chance, or I know Carl's sort of been the one that has ChatGPT Pro, but I had a kind of a cool co-working experience with ChatGPT Pro yesterday, even though I don't personally have it.
Yeah, I love the workaround. I have to say that one of the things that's been really frustrating with custom GPTs, and I'm about to port what I'm doing over into a project, is as the team knows, I create a dossier for the co-hosts for the show subject. That is a custom GPT, and it's long. It's actually a very long thing. And then I call in the next custom GPT to create the description.
Mhm.
And that is a very long thread, no problem. If I come back to it the next day and I haven't timed it, like it may just be 2 hours or 6 hours or whenever, the dossier is truncated and I can't get it back. I'm like, "No, no,
Yeah.
that's just rude.
Yeah.
I know we've had the conversation, and there is some character limit within that that isn't present in the initial conversation. Like, I don't know what its problem is, but it is very frustrating. And if that is gonna go away with a project, like, why am I having this conversation with you if I don't want to come back to it? That's what incognito mode is for,
Yeah.
right? Like, it's just so,
I'm like,
I yeah.
truncating is a massive problem with ChatGPT. Look, I'm Mr. Custom GPTs. God knows I've been building them since the day they came out. We were working in stuff in Respell. Custom GPTs came out, and I was telling you guys on the next day, I'm like, dude, I built custom GPTs that does this faster. It immediately solved problems. Like overnight, I had built like 5 of them. I'm like, guys, we should be using these. But they do have their limitations. Not being able to pick models, problematic. Not being able to talk about for me at least, um, what's the word I want? Creativity, temperature, would be another way to say that. That bothers me. Um, Not being able to use them in projects. I always feel like custom GPTs kind of get like the, oh, we'll get to it. And I kind of always wish they would get a little bit more priority, but maybe that's indicative of how many people use them or how successful they are. I know some people have kind of felt like we've had people in the comments who said custom GPTs are dead. I don't personally believe that. I don't think they're going the way of plugins. I don't know that it's necessarily met the expectations of ChatGPT or OpenAI in terms of having this global store of custom GPTs. And remember, there was the revenue sharing. Like, who the hell is even talking about who's getting revenue sharing on that? Like, did that ever even happen? Is there a custom GPT that has revenue sharing? I don't know. So it didn't really meet that. But if you really look at them, I still think that there are the direct stepping stone towards more agentic workflows that make sense. So it'll be really interesting with custom GPTs, whether they stick around, whether they get replaced with something that's called something different. But I know one thing, and this comes to one of our other comments. OpenAI, I know you're listening. I know you watch our show. When you're making updates to 4.0, you need to tell somebody what you're doing. And I just saw this in another article again. You can't just pretend like businesses aren't building on the back of custom GPTs and just make changes and be like, we made it better. And then we have people like myself and Ethan Malik, and because we're parody, we're on the same line. Me and Ethan, we're buddies. And we were both talking on LinkedIn at the same time, saying like, "What are you doing? You've broken stuff. You suck." That's my words, not Ethan's. He might have thought that too. He's a little more refined than me, I think. But that's you have to grow up. You have to let people know who are building with your products what kind of updates you're making because it breaks things. And it did this to me as I was going on a 5-day vacation. And I still don't think I have it totally solved. And I can't be the only one. I know I'm not the only one. So I don't know what you guys think on that, but I find that to be immature. That's what I'll say about that. Immature as a business. OpenAI should know better.
Yes, yes, I completely agree. I cannot stand it when a service or company that I rely on uh, just makes a stealth update, a forced stealth update. Um, there's this assumption that if I'm engaging in your service, you will let me know if anything changes because I rely on it for X, Y, and Z. I had that issue with Respell. It's I think there's this pervasive gotta go fast, make fast changes, but companies now, especially in the tech sector, um, there we've lost the how is this going to affect my customers? How is this going to affect their lives? They are first mentality is been out the window for a while, and I think that's where a lot of this comes from. Plus, OpenAI, uh, I think that the whole transition from the nonprofit to the fully profit model for them is, I think they're trying on those pants and seeing if they fit. Because before they were strictly research, and guess what? If you're strictly research, anything you put on or put out, that's as is. But once you start offering subscriptions and once you start offering a pro plan and an enterprise plan and anything like that, you're no longer just research. You offer a service or a product. So that needs to be your primary concern. The research stuff is yes, we still need it, but you gotta switch that focus. And I think that's what a lot of this really comes down to. Unless they know in the next 12 months they're going to come out with a completely unified interface, everything, all the separate pieces no longer matter. Everything's going to be done in one interface, and everything's automated tasks, operator, that's all mashed together, and you just have ChatGPT. And that could be the goal, but I'm not sure they're if they're going to do it in a year. But we'll see.
They say that's coming with 5, but how far away is 5? I don't know. Yeah, they said not in 4.0, but then Sam said on X about 5. Sorry, Andy, go ahead.
We cannot hear you. Oh, because you left and came back. So do the thing that you have to do in order to get your voice back, and when that happens. Yes. So 5 is like 4.5 is somewhere between next week and summer, and 5 is coming after that, right?
Love it. I thought you were gonna say between next week and the week after, and you just so casually said between next week and summer. It's like, oh, okay. So maybe, well, it depends. What summer, Beth? Are we talking about Florida summer? Because we're not far away from Florida summer. We're getting close, although it is 30. It's currently 49 degrees here and freezing. But we're close to it. So, what summer are we referring to, Beth?
We're talking about AI time and
AI.
OpenAI time, right? Which has like I think, when I would bet the 4.5 comes when Claude drops whatever they're gonna drop.
Yeah.
Like that seems to me that OpenAI is like, the stepmother who has the gift in the closet waiting for the moment when it needs to be used, right? That seems to me to be the situation that we're in. And I hope Anthropic drops something soon.
Andy, is your voice working? Andy, is your audio working?
No.
Yet.
Yeah. I wanted to just add a little bit of an anecdote, my personal anecdote about custom GPTs. I very rarely use custom GPTs now. I previously built a significant number of them for my own internal use because it's a way of packaging up prompts and instructions and knowledge together into a repeat use kind of application. And it was very, very quick and easy. But today, unless you're wanting to publish something to other people, and there is a beautiful library of custom GPTs there that's accessible to anyone who has an account with OpenAI, um, you you can find things that have been trained, instructed, and are well informed about almost any kind of function or task that you want to apply, ranging from tax preparation to, a personal, mission exploration, whatever. But I don't often build something for, a general public use. And so I'm not using custom GPTs. Projects is everything that you need if you're just going to be using it yourself. So I just wanted to make that distinction for people who haven't maybe ever built a custom GPT or used custom GPTs that are in the library there. Or, now you have access to projects, which is going to give you the knowledge base. It's going to give you the ability to set instructions, and it can, maintain context around what it is that you do with that particular project. All right. I just wanted to put my soapbox out there on that one.
Well, and Spaces is a project on Perplexity that you can share, right? Like, so we could collaborate on the space. We could, boy, would that be a really good idea for shows. we could collaborate on spaces. But you could build a custom GPT like project thing that you can't share in OpenAI, but you can share it in at least in Perplexity. I am thinking. I don't know if you can share it in Anthropic or not, but similar idea, right? You can add.
Projects inside of ChatGPT Teams works like that, just so we're clear. And I work with, so just when I build custom GPT solutions for sales teams, we often, not always, we often set up a new ChatGPT team interface for that team. And one of the reasons for that, obviously, number one, it locks down the URLs. Number two, it does give them access and some collaborative experience through projects, and that could be a great thing. So just wanted to make sure that was clear on there. That is a value.
The chat is correcting us and saying the ChatGPT projects can be shared. So, let's see. Go talk amongst yourselves. I'm asking whether
So, all right, this is perfect time for me to chime in while you guys are looking that stuff up. All right, this really is to just build upon what Andy brought up about the new Microsoft chip in the news show and talking about quantum computing. Right, I wanted to go back and expand on that. So, Andy, definitely correct me if I'm wrong, and I know this might be going over some of the stuff you've already said, but so Microsoft came out with their Moriana chip. Is that I'm hope I'm pronouncing
Marijuana. That's right.
correct. Moriana. Okay. So what makes this huge, and after I went back and looked at it a little more, is the method in which they're achieving the generation of the qubits, right? Or the qubit or the quantum bit, right? A traditional bit is a 0 or a 1. The quantum bit is a 0, 1, and an in-between state, which they call superposition, right? So it's like that. Think Schrodinger's box situation. You don't know what the state is until you actually observe it, right? And so this allows so much more parallel computing and more try more options to get to the right answer all at once. And this is where the true power of quantum computing really shines, and it's in these specific areas, such as modeling, or like whether you're trying to do modeling out a new molecule for drug research, or you're doing cryptography, or really math heavy kind of things. Like I think a couple months ago they talked about like Google talking about they solved a math equation with a 50-something qubit quantum computer that would take something like 15 septillion years to actually do with traditional
The
computing.
age of the universe.
So it doesn't equate. You can't just say qubits are just 2 times more bits. No, it doesn't quite work like that. And so I was trying to see where in AI specifically that we would see these huge jumps. And a lot of it has to do with the pre-training time and, coming up with the new versions, the models being able to train themselves and things like that, because of that, it has all of that quantum parallel, options and things like that. And so so going back to how important that chip is because of the topographical superconductor, right? So they've come up with a way to get the benefits of kind of both of the two traditional quantum computing, right? It's the trapped ion, super accurate but slow, and then the traditional superconductor, which is fast but low accuracy. And so this topographical superconductor is the
Before you go on, let me just correct you. Topological. The topology, topology
Sorry.
refers to topology is like, okay, the classic example is a donut. it has a topology, which is it's continuous connection with an open hole in the middle of it. Okay, that's the topology of a donut. Well, the topology is what corrects for errors that come into superconducting fluids and or trapped ions. Creating the topological superconductor gives you the speed of the superconductivity and the topology of their actual structural assembly of that thing is what makes it fairly error-free. And that's the amazing breakthrough.
Right. Yes, that absolutely. And thanks for the correction there. And this is what blew my mind, right? Was there's some reporting that's going out there about that, and Microsoft's been working on it for like 20 years or something like that. But like all this is in relation to like all the stealth releases that we've been seeing. This is essentially a stealth release. Now, I have heard some pushback from the physicists out there and the scientific community because there wasn't a release of academic information along with it, right? So
Substantial, given the breakthrough, they don't want to have it replicated quickly and easily by anybody.
Yes, I totally get that, but you're the ones who achieved it already. So there's your moat. Give us a little background, or even in just the academic circles, so that at least the scientists can say, "Oh no, we can prove this out, or we can test against it." And it does seem to be the case, because while this chip only produces 8 qubits, which those numbers look smaller than like the largest one, which I think IBM has at like 1100. I think it was 1121 or something like that, right? Along those lines. So we've got a couple of quantum computers that can do 1,000, some that are at the 50 mark, things like that. So this 8 doesn't seem like a huge jump in that realm, but this is sort of like that foundational building block to where we just start doubling and doubling and doubling.
Yeah,
Now,
eight error-free qubits.
yes, 8 error-free. Yes. So now you have to compare. It's like what is error-free qubits versus a whole bunch of but prone error.
Yeah, because you have to use a whole ton of the qubits in a quantum computer just to correct the errors of the few qubits that are doing the calculations. So it is a major advance that way. Plus, this particular architecture with the topological superconductor allows for, on a small form factor, millions of qubits to be applied. So it's like mind-blowing in terms of what they have accomplished. And yeah, it's like we didn't mention, but Microsoft is working on quantum too, and just, in my opinion, blew past IBM and Google with this announcement.
Absolutely. Because what's up?
I was just gonna say the impression I got from this, and I'm learning from you guys. That this topological has been something that a lot of companies have been going after, and Microsoft did a high risk, high reward decision years ago to pursue topological. Now, the way I understood topological, and I hadn't heard the way you explained it with the donut, Andy, helps, but that's a new state of matter. It's not a solid liquid or gas, right? So it's kind of mind-blowing what they're doing here. Now, I didn't get the impression, I'm not an expert here. I didn't get the impression that somehow Microsoft was secretly in the lab and nobody knew they were working on topological. They've been doing this quite literally for maybe more than a decade, and maybe closer to 2, depending on how they set this up. But they do seem to be the first ones to announce that they've got it working and that it's doing, what the intended purpose was. And it is really, really, really impressive, especially to see the payoff, right? It's got to be so gratifying to be anybody on that team at Microsoft. Can you imagine somebody working, I mean, like just like in healthcare research and stuff, somebody's working 10, 15 years on a solution, the topological solution, and to have an announcement like this, I mean, I just can't imagine what it feels like to be on that team right now, and knowing that you reached some end goal. And of course, this is just the beginning of what they hope to build, but super, super cool, and very cool for anybody that's on that team. I mean, how cool that must be to be part of something that's quite literally over a decade in the making.
Let me add,
And
so
Yeah, that's
the
like
idea of topology here. The topology of a donut, for example, it's important to error correction in the sense that if you twist a donut and don't rip it into pieces, it stays a donut. It has a topology that's stable. And creating a topological superconductor means that it has an attribute which is stable. And by the way, these things are all happening at the nano scale, right? At the what's new, and it's new in terms of materials, is they've actually generated what was previously just a theoretical particle, the Majorana particle. It doesn't exist, outside of this particular implementation. This is the very first time the Majorana particle has been created, and we're talking about something at the atomic level now that's being manipulated electronically somehow through microwaves or it's lasers in this case for the Majorana implementation. But they're using lasers to make the qubit, which is made up of this one little Majorana particle, on a superconductor that has a topology that maintains stability. They're manipulating the information bits, if you will, in this qubit using lasers at the atomic level. It's stunning. So anyway, stability from topology and tiny form factor, atomic level form factor.
I do. Just something this big. Okay, I want to highlight that is because the size, you can fit it in your hand, that's the main component. Sure, there's additional components or whatnot.
And it's
But
still
other supercomputers are gigantic. They're
Well,
bigger than a person.
that's the cooling, though. Well, I think that part is still
Right. Yeah. So,
Sure.
but the majority of everything that's going on is in that block that they show you. Right.
Well, I looked
So
at some images of this, Brian. The size of the chip is very similar between Willow and Maya.
That's what I would have guessed.
But
yeah.
the frame that has to manage the cooling of that process is much
Yeah.
smaller.
Oh, is it?
Still big. It's probably as tall as a man, right? But it's not as big as a room, right?
Right.
The larger, so it's coming down size for sure.
And if we compare the visual, so if we remember, so there was an image with Sam, like Sam and some people at OpenAI, sitting around a pallet of the new chips that had been delivered to them. We also remember Jensen Huang walking on stage with like his shield of a new chip, right? That was fairly big. So these are the complete opposite of that in being able to see a comparable, they're not using the same thing. I understand that, but a comparable, like this is big and this is small. Like this is a concept that, muggles can get too. And I wonder if we are having the ChatGPT moment in quantum computing because we're now at places where general people can understand, right? This is tiny. It does 8. You can have more than 8 on the thing, right? And like that kind of stuff, I think is where we're getting in terms of just being able to be in something that everyday people can make a connection with and understand.
Okay, and I'll get this bit of information. So one last bit of information is I wanted to bring up a company called Alrio or Aliro. And so what they're doing is they're doing quantum networking. All right. So the the bar that everyone's trying to reach is that million qubits, right? They talk about that this chipset has that ability or that technology to get to that point. So Alro, since they do quantum computing by taking advantage of entanglement, which is, the two particles being locked with each other. But now just imagine every data center also getting this Microsoft, quantum computer and then networking them through all the data centers. And at that point, I'm just like, okay, because I asked, I did a little more research with chat and I was just like, would quantum computing replace traditional computing? And what it seems like is it won't.
No.
It'll take on a bunch of the tasks for sure, but you're not just going to have a quantum computer to replace everything you're using the rest.
Yeah, it's not a general purpose processor.
Right.
Right.
So it has a specific use.
Two of them.
Yeah.
And that's sort of what I'm seeing is, or I'm guessing is what the future of data centers will be. Is you'll have your quantum side and you'll have your traditional side, and they'll be able to do everything as efficiently as possible, and it'll be all interconnected, or at least on the quantum side, that on that quantum network. This is all in development, and we're not going to see it for 10 more years. But it just blew my mind when I started looking deeper into it. So thank you, Andy.
Yeah, I just wanted to give some vocabulary. It's traditional is not generally used when we're talking about physics. It's classical. So there's classical physics and then there's quantum physics. And what we will see, as you rightly point out, is we'll have classical machines that use the fermion, which is an electron, on the generalized, computing side. And then we'll have the fermion, which is the Majorana particle, running on the quantum side of the computing infrastructure. So that's just those two terms, a fermion, which actually I think it was Cisco brought it in.
Yeah, somebody was like, "Oh, we get to talk about this." Yeah,
that's what we talk about, fermions. Okay, cool.
So I do want to give a quick shout out to, I think Gwen was first, and then also just here in the comments, Justin saying it. Look how cool our folks are in the comments. I just want to call this out. Justin just did it too. I don't see Jen. Now Jen is like almost always in our chat, and Jen just isn't here today. This is, I don't see Jen, so I'll say it for her. Please take a moment to like the video, show some love for the Daily AI Show chat, and for the love of AI, subscribe and join the newsletter. And that's the second person who's taken upon themselves to just do what we should be doing more often, which is reminding people to like and subscribe and stuff like that. So I just want to say, like, I just have nothing to do with the topics of the day, but I just want to say how cool you guys are. You guys know, I mean, we did our 400 show, we love you. And just how much we appreciate that. Everybody who takes a moment. I mean, the fact that you take a moment of your day to even write something to help us grow our show is very, very cool. So I just want to say thank you for everybody who does that. And yes, please do like and subscribe. I know, listen, if you're listening to this and you watch us on YouTube, it's some other hour of the day that's not our live hour, or you're watching when we do a light edited version of this that goes out as well. I know you hear every YouTube and you see little bells ring and stuff like that. If you have ever created YouTube content or had a channel, you do realize just how valuable that is for growing. It's an indicator to the algorithm. It's an indicator back to YouTube and other communities to say, hey, this is something that I like, which means it will go to other people similar to you. And it just frankly helps us grow. So if you do love the show, or if you kind of even just like us, like a little like us, and you want to let other people know about it, we appreciate a like or subscribe. Quite honestly, any of that. Getting in the comments. Listen, you guys being in the live comments right now is massive. Leaving a comment under any other video that we do, even if we're not live, massive, because it shows the engagement, and that's a big deal as well. So I don't think we're kind of right at time. I don't think we have any other ones on there. Look, we had a whole bunch of topics over the last 2 weeks. This is what's fun about this show is like, we all are out there, outside of this show, we don't all talk to each other all day long. And so we're thinking about these topics and going, oh, that's right. We did that. We just talked about that. And this gives us an opportunity to talk about just some really, really cool topics along the way. Beth, you got something? I feel like you have a shocked face. Oh, yeah. Gareth.
I just saw somebody share this show in a completely
AI Salon. He told me on LinkedIn. Thank you, Gareth, for sending it. By the way, Gareth is awesome. He LinkedIn DMs me and shares stuff with me. So thank you, Gareth, for doing that. Anybody? And by the way, this is a great time to say this. If you're not following and connected with us on LinkedIn individually, you should be. You should be, at the very least. DM me, connect with me, tell me where we know each other from or whatever. Hey, I watch the show. I wanted to connect with you because I talk to people from the show, Gareth included, on LinkedIn all the time. I'm on LinkedIn quite a bit. That is my social media network of choice for me. I do a lot of work there. I used to run LinkedIn strategy, and I know the rest of us are on there too. Carl puts out amazing content on LinkedIn. You should go connect with us over there. I don't think we say that enough, honestly, but come find us on LinkedIn and just keep the conversation going over there as well. Cause I know I'm on there every day, talking to people about use cases and things like that. So I've even I probably shouldn't say this. I've even helped a few people with a couple of things on there. If they ask, don't flood my inbox, please. But I'm more than happy to help people succeed. So if I can provide some wisdom or some help along the way, I'm always happy to do that. I know everybody else on the show is too. Okay.
So
That's
before we wrap up, I just want to make an in-show correction. We thought maybe projects were shareable, and they are not. Canvases are, projects are not. So if you were hearing that part of the show thinking they were, no. Thanks for staying for the rest of the show. Now you know.
Yeah. And now you know. You guys don't have little kids. Oh God, what was it called? It was this little cartoon. They were little in between cartoons, and the little girl always has to go to the bathroom, and her grandmother always saves her. These were like little 2-minute cartoons, in between other cartoons. So if you ever had a little kid, you know this. But the little girl always ends the little cartoon by going, "And now you know, don't wait to go," because her grandmother always saves the day and gets her to the bathroom on time. She's like a 3 or 4-year-old. So, and now you know, don't wait to go. So all right, that's it. We will see you guys starting next Monday for 5 new days of shows. We got a lot of cool topics. I am pretty sure robots are definitely one of them, right? Aren't we going to talk about robots next week? We've been saying we're going to do that for a while, and there's been some super cool stuff in that area. So if you're excited to talk about robots and humanoid robots and all that and what the updates are, then make sure you're back next week and hang out with us. Thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend. Don't forget to sign up for the newsletter. Bye.
Aloha.